Ha! This is Laborz, and it is so nice to have you here. These are the paints you need. As you can see, the base is already painted, and if you want to see the tutorial on how to paint the base, you can access to that content on my Patreon page. We are using incubi darkness with thin layers. This is a very dark grayish green color, which is great because the green could be the reflection of the environment. Remember, we need to keep a little bit of black, otherwise the mini will read more as grey than black. Okay? No Mickey Mouse. Granny's cataract is grey and the Black Panther is black, okay? Okay. Use thin layers and add some water to your paint to create a glaze if you want to blend it nicely. Now let's mix some dawnstone to the incubi darkness and reduce the highlight areas. Try to paint some muscle fibers on the shoulders and emphasize the muscular tones where you can. On the mask we highlight the regular areas that we would highlight on any other face. Forehead, eyebrows, cheeks, upper side of the mouth, and draw some jawline to make it more defined. Since the mouth guard on the mask is more or less flat, we don't highlight the chin separately. Dawnstone is more of a bluish grey color, which is also cold and more of a neutral color, so it's nice to use it as a highlight for black. Let's use pure dawnstone for our next highlight. Highlighting black using greys can be a challenging task, as it can be easy to overdo it and create a miniature that looks washed out or too bright. If you feel you went too far, like Papa Laborz will do in just a couple of minutes, then glaze back some black, but do that very carefully because we don't want to lose our incubi darkness layer. Try to emphasize the muscles on the arms and on the upper part of the chest to create the focal point around the torso. Check the reference image where to leave the miniature black and where you can be braver with the highlights. If you feel like you are losing a bit of detail, just blackline between the different sections, like the gloves, to make them more defined. Now add some Gauss Blaster Green to the dawnstone and reduce the highlight areas even more. I use thin layers that help me to blend in the colors more easily. You can achieve a smoother finish and you build up the color gradually. Unfortunately, that also means it's a very slow process, but it's very rewarding if done right. I paint the eyes and claws around his shoulders with this color as well. After creating those highlights, I blend them using a glaze of the previous mixture. Always offload your brush when applying glazes on a paper towel, otherwise your glaze will run into the recesses and it will dry to a stain with a line around it. It's not really nice. So just roll your brush tip on a paper towel and always apply the paint in the same direction, moving the brush from the darker to the brighter values. Then we apply a very thin glaze next to these bright highlights. This will add a little bit of tonal variation, and since we use this color on the base, it will create a more harmonic look as well. Be really gentle, because you don't want to end up with an orange suit. With that, our Panther is almost done. Now it's time for the OSL. I switch back to the airbrush and apply Night Lord's Blue on the right side of the miniature. The consistency is quite thin and my compressor is at 3 psi. This is a narrow blue light coming from the bottom. Be careful not to overspray too much on the highlighted surfaces, but if the midtones receive a little bit of blue, that's not a big deal. If you don't have an airbrush and you had no problems following this tutorial, then you can use a brush to apply this layer. Just use thin layers and build up the opacity over time. Then we sketch this blue light more with teclis blue. Add a nice solid contour to the lower side of the left pec muscle, abs, thigh, butt cheeks, ribs and the side of the mask, but only the left side. Try to follow the contour of the muscles. Remember our money shot? So you see that we need that nice blue OSL effect to round down on the left leg, emphasizing the muscle contours on the side. This is very important, so we basically paint this and frame the miniature in a way. Yeah, Papa Laborz, but that dumb because our miniature gonna look good in a certain angle only. No, we have an angle that our miniature is gonna look awesome, but do you think we created this angle? Nope. The miniature sculpted this way. We just continue to make that angle more alive with colors. And if you did things right, it's gonna look nice overall. Not just from one angle. Okay, once you sketch the OSL, start to blend it with some glazes to make it smooth like Granny's butt. Now with the temple guard blue, we start to reduce the highlight areas a bit more. Always check back and forth for our money shot and paint along the contours of the muscles again while reducing the highlight areas. If you feel like you went a bit too far, just glaze back the previous color. Then I went back with hoeth blue and continued the process. If you feel like that your highlights are not as intense that you want them to be, add brighter colors. You could feel that about the abs and the arm that is facing down, and since the miniature is casting shadows on itself, we can fight it with adding some ice yellow to the paint. Or any brighter color, basically. Lastly, I glaze a bit of hoeth blue to smooth out the gradient on the OSL effect. This is a very light glaze, but be careful not to overspray it in the shadowy parts. Gentle trigger control and small bursts are your friend. With that, the Black Panther is done and ready for the table. So thank you for joining me on this little painting adventure. A huge thanks to my Patreons who support these kind of videos, with special shout out to Jonathan Rhodes, Cold-Blooded Dom, Trying to Paint Minis, Jonathan Mosner, Rulzak, Vlad D, Earthapple21, One Sharp Joe Crafts, Richard Piet, Glitchy Macrash. If you want to support the work of Papa Laborts, you can do that on Patreon, where you will have early access to these videos and you can vote on the next mini. Or if you need a little bit of extra help, online coaching is also available. I hope the rest of your day will be as smooth as a granny's butt cheek.